You guys know what time it is? It's scary time. Even though it's 11, not PM. AM. Fuck you, okay? I only gotta know is it's scary time. Let's just get right into it, and of course it says ads. Let's go. Yay, have
When
fun.
I was 17 years old, I went to my friend's birthday party. Lots of teenagers were drinking illegally. However, I was never into
It's
that
called
kind
a
of
party,
stuff. So
motherfucker.
then, one guy I had never met before joined the party and started talking to another group of people. Soon he turned to me and introduced himself as John. He was quite tall and had remarkably blue eyes, but he gradually started to act weird. He kept following me and seemed to have a strong obsession with me. One of my friends, Callum, saw my discomfort, so he said, "Quit it, man. Don't be a creep." And the look in his eyes made my skin crawl. Why? She's mine. What he said was kind of creepy, so I called my dad to come and get me. Callum stayed with me while I was waiting for my dad at the front of the house. "He's watching us," Callum told me, and my body went stiff. "Here, hold my hand. If he thinks we're together, he might give up." Anger came from behind us. We both looked, and John was headed straight towards us. I was getting really worried. He looked like he was going to hit Callum. Arrived. So I grabbed Callum's hand and we ran to the car. Then I explained everything to him. We were in my bed and about to go to sleep, and then I heard the front gate open. When I looked out the window, to my horror, John was sneaking into our yard. Dad got mad when I told him this, so he grabbed his baseball bat and went straight outside. But when he came back after a while, he was frowning. He said, "You left your jacket." When I got my jacket, a small piece of paper fell out of my pocket.
Nope.
Dad picked it up and opened it. "You're mine, Michelle." A few weeks passed. That experience had made me and Callum really close, so we started dating.
Of course.
One day, while we were watching a movie at the theater, I really had to go to the toilet. I rushed to the bathroom to avoid missing too much of the film. On my way back, at the door of the theater, John was there. He looked furious and was actually crying. Then he rushed towards me and said, "How could you do this to me?" I was baffled. "I haven't done anything to you." He just stood there, stared at me, so I rushed back into the theater and told Callum what was going on. We left the theater immediately. I was pretty nervous about what happened, but I also thought everything would be alright soon.
Nope.
However, I was totally wrong.
Called it.
A few days later, I was in my backyard working on my art project, sobbing, and John was there, holding a small container of medication in his left hand. My legs began to tremble as he moved closer to me. "Why are you here?" I asked him.
That's why I bought a
"I
gun.
missed you, Michelle. I've been following you nearly every day. Are you with Callum just to make me jealous because it's working? But no, you are wrong." As John began smiling, my mouth went dry. "I don't even know you, so please leave." But when I said this, he began crying again as he pulled out a knife and
Crying like a
pointed
little
it at
shit.
me.
Never mind.
I screamed and began running towards my back fence. But before I reached it, he caught my shirt and pulled me to the ground cheek and then yelled, "I love you, Michelle. Nobody else can have you. You're mine."
And he's really committed.
I was horrified, and tears were rolling down my face. "Get off her!" All of a sudden, my dad, who was gardening outside, quickly ran towards us.
He got the hoe.
He beat him up with a bat,
Oh.
and then tied him up with a rope he got out of his shed. And I heard John mutter, "I thought you were alone." Once my dad made sure I was alright, he called the police and Callum. John began laughing like a maniac and yelled out in anger when he was arrested. "I kissed her. She's mine. Mine." Later, we got a phone call from the police, and it turned out that he was high on drugs, and his room was full of pictures of me, as well as a diary describing plans to kidnap and murder me. After that, John was sentenced to jail for 7 years. I'm 22 now, and Callum and I are still together.
Damn.
We've just moved to the city together recently. I have deleted all social media, but I'm still in fear. We are 2 years away from the date John will be released. And I know that one day in the future, John will likely come looking for me again.
Most likely. Once a crazy person, always a crazy person.
When I was 14 years old, we traveled to Jeddah for a few days.
Wow.
On our
Lucky
way back, it was
bitch.
just past midnight, and there were almost no cars around on both sides of the highway. My mom, dad, and I were chatting and laughing at each other. However, we just ran out of topics soon, and I decided to lie down in the back seat. At that moment, I heard a loud bang and passed out for a few seconds. When I got my senses back, I tried to sit up, but the car felt like a roller coaster, so I struggled a little. When I finally sat up, I grabbed the shoulders of both the driver and passenger seats. And then, looking out through my window, I realized that the car was on mid-air floating. When the car dropped, the front bumper dismantled and slid past the right windows of the car. What makes the matter worse, our car did not stop for us. It just started to run at a very high speed, and my dad and I freaked out due to the situation. My mom was insisting him to stop the car as soon as possible. I could see that he was trying, but the car wouldn't stop. Fortunately, we stopped at the fast lane of the highway.
I'm in on some
and there
needs
was a
for
gas station
speed
on the
shit
other
right
side of
here.
the road. We rushed out of the car and realized that our front left tire burst, and I could see that there was still no cars anywhere. The road was totally empty. My dad was bleeding from his nose injury due to his first hit on the steering wheel when the tire burst. When my mom went back to check to see if he was all right, I suddenly started to have an eerie feeling. At that very moment, I could feel that part of the illumination from the gas station seemed to get dimmer. I scrutinized in the woods behind the gas station. And then, 2 dark, gigantic figures were standing there and staring at us. I thought I was hallucinating, but those figures were literally standing there. Although I couldn't see their faces, I could surely see the silhouettes and those piercing eyes. Also, their sizes were absolutely abnormal. I stood there in fear. I couldn't even think of calling out my mom, saying, "Look over there." Then those 2 figures slowly walked away to the woods and disappeared. After those things walked away into the dark, the brightness of the gas station seemed to be back to normal again. And then, the cars on the road started to pass on both sides of the highway.
The hell?
It was like a moment of nightmare. We finally called the police, and not long after, 3 police cars arrived. At first, the cops didn't seem to believe us when we reported our situation. But anyway, we were taken to the hospital and given treatment. The next day, a detective came to speak with us, saying that this part of the highway was known as a haunted road, and a lot of bizarre accidents have occurred, literally. The local government tried to investigate what was the reason, but it has never been solved until now. Since that day, my family never went on that highway. And a few years later, that highway was shut down due to the rising number of fatalities.
A couple of years ago, my family and I moved to a new house.
Hell yeah.
It was quite old, and it had been sitting empty for at least 15 years before my family decided to buy it. At first,
Okay, if a house was either abandoned or left there for 15 years, you know that house is haunted as fuck. I'm just saying. Bigfoot's gonna be in your fucking closet tonight.
But after that, I had some weird experiences.
Hold you.
My room was right across the bathroom, and at night, I would hear strange noises coming from it. It was coming from the walls, but when I finally got enough courage to walk towards it, the noises always stopped. Not much later, I got used to the sound and eventually stopped being scared of it. But that wasn't
Hell
a
no.
problem compared to other things. My stuff started to go missing, like my clothes, underwear, and even one of my pillows. Sometimes I yelled at my little sister, since she often came into my room. I thought that she probably stole my stuff, but whenever I got mad at her,
Yeah,
she
she's
said,
stealing your panties.
"Why would I take your underwear? I'm not a thief."
Exactly.
Eventually, I couldn't find my stuff.
Little
Even
creep stole my
worse,
fucking
our food
underwear.
also went missing, little by little. My family and I felt uneasy. One night, I was laying in my bed about to go to sleep, and as I rolled over, I saw a figure in front of my door
There, so
gone.
have fun.
I thought it was just my imagination, but after that, I started receiving little notes on my bedside table when I woke up. Pretty,
Wiki, X and
I
baby.
see you. And other weird things were written on it. However, I figured that my sister was trying to scare me, so I just ignored it. And that day became the most terrible memory of my entire life. One day, my dad and I were fixing up the bathroom. Because the entire house was pretty old, we were repairing the inside of the bathroom first. As we were tearing the tiles of the wall, Dad took the huge mirror off, and at that instant, I screamed. There was a little room behind the mirror,
Side
and
mirror.
there I found my stuff, and even my underwear,
Oh.
along with empty food wrappers. We couldn't believe what we just saw, and Mom immediately called
And
the
creeping
police.
in the bathroom.
They arrived pretty fast, and when they inspected that tiny room, they found out that there was a man who had been living in it for at least a couple of months.
Damn.
But he was not there, so the police promised that they would search for him outside. After that, we demolished the room, and since I turned 18 years old, I moved to my college nearby and got my own apartment.
Nice.
Sometimes I go back to my hometown to visit my parents, but never spend the night.
Good.
I know that the man was still never caught, and I'm always paranoid. I know that the man was still never caught, and I'm always paranoid, wondering if he's still hiding somewhere in our house.
This happened 6 years ago when I was 16 years old. One day, my parents were going to a concert in California, so one of my best friends and I had a sleepover at my house. After my parents had left, we played some video games, ate some snacks, and a few hours later, we finally went to bed when we got bored watching some more movies on Netflix. I was about to
Netflix
sleep
and chilling
and
with
at that
the
moment, I
boys.
heard some loud noise. It seemed that our house's window was broken by someone.
Yeet.
Being freaked out, I woke my friend up, and of course, he got mad. "Dude,
the
get
fuck
into the
you
bathroom,
wake me, bitch?"
now," I said to him, and he replied, "Why?" But there was no time to explain. I got up,
Get your
opened
fat
the
ass.
doors, and we went into the bathroom. I was paying attention to outside if I could hear any footsteps. Then,
Fuck that.
someone was running towards us. As soon as I locked the door, the intruder stood in front of the door and said to open up with a deep and low voice. And then he abruptly started kicking down the door. "Open it! Open, or I'll kill y'all!" We were so scared at that moment. He finally broke down the door, and while he succeeded to come in, I quickly grabbed some medical scissors at the same time. He dropped the axe that was in his hand, and then I finally saw his face. He
Get
was
that
in
axe.
his mid-50s, and he had long, shaggy hair with 70s-style glasses.
No.
His eyes were all bloodshot, and furthermore, I could see that he was drooling like a mad person. I will never forget the way he looked the rest of my life. Just then, he violently grabbed my scissors and stabbed me in the arm. When he
Yeah.
attacked, suddenly I felt a deep pain, and I was so terrified thinking that we were going to die in here. I closed my eyes, and then my friend started punching his face.
Yeah.
As he had learned martial arts for self-protection, and who had enough strength to beat an adult up, he attacked his face several times and took away the scissors from him.
Right, left,
I started to
right,
help him
left.
attack that man. With one hand, I punched him in the throat, and when my
Yeah.
friend pushed him, throwing him to the ground, we finally
Kick him
managed to
down.
get out of the bathroom.
Oh, I would just kick him while he's
Before the
down.
man tried to escape, we pushed the couch from the living room with all our might and trapped him in there. He
Your living
slammed
room
the door and
upstairs?
yelled
What
in
kind
a
of living
mad,
room is
angry
that?
voice.
Or did you
It
get
was
the couch from the
impossible to
living room
escape.
and then put it all the
I grabbed
stairs?
my phone and called 911. About 10 minutes later, 3 police arrived and they went into the bathroom. When they entered inside, they witnessed a full pool of blood, took him outside, and arrested him. Our nightmare was finally finished at that moment. One of the police officers stayed with us, and my parents had to come back home early the next day when they had got a call from the police.
Sweet puppy.
After that, it turned out he was a serious kidnapper who had a mental issue, and he was sentenced to jail for over 10 years. Since then, I've never had that kind of experience ever. However, I always wondered what would have happened if my friend wasn't there with me.
Caught a hole
I
in
will
that
always
ass.
appreciate him for saving my life.
Now you owe him a debt.
When this incident happened. One day, I was taking a walk with my dog Molly. After walking 2 more
Molly?
blocks, we saw 3 men smoking on the porch and talking to
They
each
smoking
other.
Molly?
2 of them didn't pay attention to me, but one was staring in my direction.
He's like,
He was a
damn.
bit bigger compared to the other
Look
2
at that
guys.
Molly.
He looked like he was in his 20s and was also bald. I
Ah,
quickly looked the other direction,
don't trust the
but
bald
then he
people.
yelled at me from behind. Hey, gorgeous, nice
Ah.
puppy you got. Come over here and let me pet her.
Nope.
Then I
Wait.
heard laughter
Hey.
coming from the other 2 men. So I ignored them and rushed over to my house. At first, I didn't tell my parents anything, thinking that it wasn't that serious.
Still with your
but
parents?
I was wrong.
Bye.
The day after, I walked my dog as usual, but because I was feeling a little bit scared, I took pepper spray with me.
Good
I
girl.
walked past the same house hoping not to see that weird man, but he was there again. He was sitting on a rocking chair on the porch, and when he saw me,
Like an old man.
he shot up from his seat.
Never mind.
In fear, I picked up Molly and bolted down the sidewalk, trying to get away from him. But to my horror, he was chasing after me.
That's not
He
cheating. It's
pushed me
just
to
like
the
a speed
ground,
walk.
making me fall onto the hard concrete floor and dropping
Ow.
Molly. I started screaming for help, for anybody to hear me, but he covered my mouth. Clawing at his hands, I realized
So you
that
get
I
those
had
sharp
the pepper
nails.
spray in my pocket. So I
Or you
grabbed it
sprayed,
and sprayed it in his
motherfucker.
eyes, and
Yeah.
after a while, he eventually screamed out in pain and rolled off my body. I quickly got up
When he's
and
rolling
picked
like
up
that, just
Molly.
kick him while he's
When I got
down. Put
home,
some
of
spray in his
course,
mouth.
I
You're good.
frantically explained the situation to my parents. My dad, who was a retired Marine, wanted to go to that house. But Mom just told us to go to the police officer what happened and showed him my injury. But they didn't really help me. A couple of months later, I started working at a 7-Eleven.
Why?
One day, I was walking home after my night shift. And when I turned the corner, I noticed a truck driving slowly and way too close to the sidewalk. I didn't pay any attention at first. But when I was standing in front of
My
my front
mom's
door, I looked
drunk as
behind me
hell.
and saw the same car. 2 men were in the truck, and I could see that they were watching me. I told my parents again, and because of this, my dad was on the lookout in front of the house for a few weeks. Nothing really happened until that night. That night traumatized me, and the guilt still chokes me to this day.
Guilt? Why would you have
It
guilt?
was about 2 in the morning when Molly started barking at something out the window.
Rough, motherfucker.
Being
Rough.
too tired, I just shrugged it off and drifted back to sleep.
How can you
Until
drift back to
I
sleep? What
woke
the
up
fuck?
to the sound of Molly yelping in pain.
Oh
I opened
no.
my eyes and saw my dog's lifeless body on the floor covered in blood and a dark figure over her. It was him. Do you think you could get away from me? No, you were wrong. He climbed over me and started punching my face. With my blurred vision, I kept on kicking and hitting the man, but he didn't even flinch. And next, him struggling to get his belt off. Pure terror swept over my body.
Oh, okay.
I let
That's
out
why.
a scream before he could cover my mouth. All of a sudden, the door swung open.
Daddy's home.
My dad held his gun in his hand, and my
Oh,
mom
shit.
was behind him.
Gun?
As soon as Dad saw the man, he shot him twice.
Pop, bitch.
The man screamed in agony, and I pushed him off of my body.
That's what you get.
Dad grabbed him and started beating him, showing no mercy, and Mom called the police. I then ran to Molly, and she
No
already
mercy,
passed
bitch.
away. And they arrested him.
Oh,
It turns out that it was not only that man, but also his other 2 friends who conspired this. Their plan was to break into our house, kidnap me, and rape me. Fortunately, they were caught and sentenced to 16 years in prison
Shit.
on multiple charges. Until now, I still live with my parents because of the fear of being alone.
Your
And
dad's
I
a
feel
savage.
sorry for Molly. I really miss her. I miss her so much.
Dogs have a deep attachment.
It was a
We
normal,
have time for
boring
one
day
more.
in winter 2015. I was at home and had nothing else to do that day since the snow was so heavy. So I told my mom that I was going for a walk with my dog. I decided to take
What's
her
with
for a
these people and
5-minute
walking
walk
their
to the field
dogs?
near our house.
It's a wiener dog,
When
bro.
we got there, the place was totally empty. I couldn't see
that's-
anyone walking around.
Because it's
But I
snowing like a
didn't mind them.
fucking bitch. What do you expect?
So we started walking again for more than 5 minutes. Then all of a
Like
sudden,
a lab
I
hot
heard
dog
something.
dog person.
it was kind of like someone was moaning. I looked around to see where the sound was
Fuck's sake.
coming from.
Hoi,
At that moment,
hoi, see
I saw
Poppy.
there was a man wearing a
Oh.
dark black trench coat
So it's not
with his hood
moaning.
up
Well,
and winter boots. Being frightened, I quickly
Uggs?
ducked
Are they
behind a tree,
Uggs?
hoping that he didn't see me. I laid down flat and ordered my dog to hide. He
ordered.
lay in the snow, digging his mouth into it.
I don't think that's gonna
Man
hide him,
stood
but
there for a
okay.
while, and then he slowly walked off. A few minutes later, when I couldn't hear his feet anymore, I quietly got up and said to my dog, "Come." He followed me,
In my pants.
and by this time, I heard the creepy moan again behind me.
You sweet
I was
Poppy.
terrified. I hesitated at first, but slowly turned around to see what was going on. Well,
Sweet
I
Poppy,
hope no
sweet
one ever
Poppy.
has to go through something like this.
Was someone moaning in
Because
the
what I
back?
saw at that moment became the
Was
worst
his
nightmare
4-foot
I've ever had
double
in my whole life.
slong?
He was there.
Oh,
He stood there staring at
not a
me.
4-foot slong.
But
Okay.
this time, he wasn't alone.
Oh, so a 2-foot
There was
slong.
also a woman next to him.
Is that why the
Now they
moaning
both
was?
had large knives. The woman was covered in blood, and her bright smile was spreading across her face like she was insane. I started running away, calling my dog to follow me. I was almost halfway to the field, but then I accidentally fell to the ground and landed on a broken beer bottle, which penetrated the side of my leg.
That's
It
not the
was
only
painful,
thing you
But
penetrated.
there was no time, so I used all my strength to pull out the broken piece.
Aren't you supposed to leave it in
Managed
so it
to pull
doesn't
out,
bleed?
But after that, it was hard to get up and run.
Yeah, that's what I think.
I
God,
struggled to
bitch.
crawl on the field, spreading blood in the snow.
Help me.
I knew that it was
Help me,
definitely visible
phone,
to
I
them,
can't
and they
get
soon
up.
found me. The woman got close to me. "Leave me alone!" I shouted to them,
Yeah, that.
hoping that someone
Tell
would hear
her.
my voice for help,
Tell her.
but no one was around. All of a sudden, my dog got in front of me to stab me. He instantly jumped up and bit her neck.
Yeah,
She yelled
no
and
mercy.
swung around the knife on him. When my dog collapsed, injured on the ground, an uncontrollable anger surged up within me. I got up,
Okay,
grabbed
Hulk
her knife,
smash.
and stabbed her side.
Yeah,
I
stabby,
started
stabby.
to choke her. But then
The men.
sharp
Yeah, the
pain
man.
penetrated on my back. And when I
Dumbass.
fell to the ground, I could see the man was standing behind me. I
Dumbass.
thought I was going to die. And in those few seconds, when I was about to close my eyes, bang! His arm was blown off.
Oh shit.
It was my neighbor living next to our house.
Yeah.
He was holding a shotgun in his hand. He told me later that he'd went hunting, and when he visited the field, he heard my voice. His hunting dogs rushed up to the man and bit into his shoulder. After that, my neighbor got to
These
me
dogs
and
are
tried to help me to
ruthless.
stand up, but I told him to help my dog first instead of me. Then I finally blacked out.
Okay.
When I
Swear to
woke
God,
up
if another
again, I
dog
was in the
dies,
hospital.
I'm gonna kill
My family
someone.
was standing next to me with my neighbor. He told me that after I blacked out,
Like a good
police
neighbor,
arrived with
State
an
Farm is
ambulance and
there.
that my dog was taken to the veterinary clinic and survived by a
Yes.
miracle. A few minutes later, a policeman came to report the information that the man who attacked me had been arrested, but the woman had died from shock. And it turned out that they were serious criminals, and when they were sent to the mental institution, he had escaped with the woman. After that, my
true
neighbor
love.
lost the right to own a weapon because he shot at a person. But he didn't care,
What?
though. He just told me that he did the right thing to save someone.
What kind of fucking sense does that make? They should give it back, but they may take their time doing it. Depends on what you're at. It's impounded until the case is closed, and you request your property back at some point. Return to you unless it disappears from Evan's locker. That's retarded. That does not make sense. Why would you get your gun license taken away? You protected someone. That don't make no goddamn sense.
One's life. And he also said that he's just glad I'm alive. Well, I'll never forget about this incident, ever. And I will always thank my neighbor and my dog for saving my life.
Yeah, look at that, an ad. Fuck. We don't want no ads, thank you very much. You better not know.
If I gave you
You hairy bitch.
$25,000 today, what would you do?
Oh, I would buy a brand new PC so I can make some quality videos. I would buy a new desktop microphone, a new keyboard that's not fucking membrane because it's shot. And then I would give the rest of the money to my parents. Why?
Pay 2 years off your mortgage, escape the rat race.
I don't
for
have a
while, buy new
mortgage.
car.
I don't have
If you give
a
me
driver's
just 90
license.
seconds of your time right now,
No. My life, haha, got you, you dumb bitch. Oh yeah, full credit goes to Juan C Entertainment. We'll leave their channel in the description so I don't get fucking copyright striked, whatever. So I'm a small time YouTuber. I don't want that, you know. I got people to feed, even though. Fuck me. I'm gonna leave their channel description. So if you guys like the video, please do nothing. You don't have to do anything. Just watch the video, you fucking bitch.